everyone, and welcome to Walford Weekly, your weekly EastEnders podcast, where this week we'll be discussing the episodes released on the BBC in the UK from Monday the 25th to Thursday the 28th of April 2022. Hello and welcome back. I'm Alex, and I'm a co-host of this show. Notice I use the word co, because I cannot do this on my own. I cannot. And who's on board? But it's only Rob. Hello, Rob.
Hello, Alex. How are you? God, your intros are getting much more extravagant. I like it. I do. I think this is a new addition to the podcast. We like this. Alex just thinking of new and exuberant ways to introduce his co-host. How lovely. How are you, Alexander?
I'm very well. I'm very happy to see your little face, Rob. I really am. I'm in a very good mood this evening, in a very good mood. I don't know if it's because it's the bank holiday weekend coming, yeah, or whether it's been a good week of EastEnders. I don't know. I don't know. Has it been a good week of EastEnders? I guess we find out, don't we, Rob? Did you have a fun week this week?
I did. I've been alright, thanks. Yeah, nothing much to report. Just work stuff, the usual. Couple of days off work at the moment. I've got a new T-shirt. That's about the most exciting thing that's happened. I've got a new mattress that's arrived in preparation for my new bed to be set up, so that's exciting. Big changes happening in Rob's studio in the coming weeks, so watch this space. However, what's also happening is that my internet's being annoying and it keeps dropping out unexpectedly, so let's go before bad things happen.
Sounds like a plan to me. All right then, let's jump right in then with where we left off last week, and that is Sam's story. Not really much to tell this week, other than she's now moved in with Jack after a little bit of persuasion with Ricky, kind of convincing him that life's no fun without his mum at the house. And you know, she's basically caused absolute ruckus around the house to the point where Denise is completely tearing her hair out and frustrated with this new addition to their family. So, you know, I'm glad they've kind of put the foot on the pedal on this brake a little bit with Sam this week. I think if it was always going at 100, it would be a little bit too extreme for the story. But, you know, again, a few choice words being said. Mainly on Monday's episode, which was written by Brian Kirkwood, which is a little point I need to bring out as well.
The Pat Killer.
She is the Pat Killer, so I've got many a choice word to say to him. But he also had a very successful run on Hollyoaks recently. What did you think about Monday's episode, and what did you think about Sam? You know, generally, how was it?
I mean, in fairness, I have to say, despite the fact that it was written by the Pat Killer, I did quite enjoy Monday's episode. I thought there was some. I did. I thought there was some. I thought there were some quite good lines in there.
You're going to disagree early.
I noticed your. Well, yeah, maybe. I quite liked it. I quite like the lines such as, you know, there are two things I don't like about you: your face. Quite like that. Yes. And I quite liked your mum was a legend. You're not even a rumour. Quite like that. And I also quite liked Patrick worrying Kim to the point where she went, "What's wrong? Is it Denise? Is she dead?" Quite enjoyed that as well. Maybe I was just in a good mood Monday. You know, what can I say? Why did you not like it?
It just felt a bit like nothing seemed to flow very well for me. You're right. There were some nice one-liners there, and as I said, with Kat and with Sam. Sharon's absence was a shame, but she's off to see Michelle, so that's fine. It was explained away. It's fine. Actually, it wasn't Michelle, was it? It was Vicky. She went to see Vicky, which then
Vicky.
Yes, and then she spread loads of rumours all over Twitter saying that Vicky was coming back to the show. Goodness, where they came from. It was just a little passing comment. But no, I know. Just some of the way the words were written, it just felt like it kind of like it was a very sudden stop to things. So like something was said and then stopped, and something was said and then stopped, you know, it just felt a bit disjointed for me.
You know, I know. Well, yeah, so the thing is, though, we've never done this before. We've never commented on an individual writer's episode. Do you know why? Because no other writer killed Pat.
Exactly, the Pat Killer.
That's the only reason this conversation is happening.
I mean, it's also very strange and I'm not using this term as a nasty term, but it's very strange for someone who was an executive producer to come back then as a writer. I thought that was has that happened before?
It's not the only person. Yes, Lorraine Newman is on the writing team as well, who was let me get this right. She was the producer before Dominic Treadwell Collins, I do believe.
Right.
I'm here, boys. What could you want? So it does happen. It's unusual. There is a guy, Stuart Blackburn, I believe his name is, who used to produce Emmerdale, who's now on the writing team for Emmerdale. So it does happen. It does happen. It's a bit like me going back to my old job and sort of going, yeah, I need a job. Cheers, can you? And they just let you in because you've got experience in the plays and you know your stuff. So despite the fact that it was written by the Pact Killer, I thought one day was all right. But I'm sure he will be back, and I'm sure there are many episodes where we'll be happy to throw our thoughts into it. So enjoy. Look forward to that, Mr. Kirkwood. Welcome back.
We got lots to say about you, Mr. Kirkwood. How dare you kill Pat? We'll never forgive you. So going back to the base of what we're saying, it's Sam having a quiet week. Did you enjoy her kind of rocking the boat in the in Jack's house this week and kind of getting under the feet of Denise?
Yeah, I mean, it's inevitable, wasn't it? We knew this was coming. We knew she was going to start immediately causing issues for Denise. More Denise than Jack, to be fair. So I'm fully looking forward to the moment where Denise just completely loses it and they have a massive cat fight, because that moment feels like it's coming. Either Denise or Amy, because Amy looks like she's ready to fly at Sam at any moment as well. So that's possible. Someone... She does. She keeps having to be pulled back from just flying at Sam, doesn't she? Twice it's happened now. Once, when she walked to the restaurant, and she literally went, "I don't like her," and just started going towards her. Brilliant. I like this. The new side of Amy. So, we'll look forward to that. It was inevitable, really, wasn't it? And we knew that Sam was going to kind of come in and immediately cause chaos. I'm a bit confused as to how rich Sam is supposed to be, because she's walking around in all these designer clothes. When she first came back, she was able to hand Ben, this envelope full of... an undistinguished amount of cash. So we don't know how much was in there. I mean, that's a Mitchell trait, isn't it? Just walking around with envelopes full of cash so that you can ready to hand out at necessary moments.
Chicken shops.
Thing. Yeah. So I don't know quite what Sam's money situation is at the moment, but apparently it's not great because she's now having to sofa surf. I would have thought, from Jack's perspective, if Sam has to be around, it would have made more sense for her to just kind of have an empty flat for a bit, wouldn't it? Rather than sleep on the sofa, where she can kind of drip her poison everywhere. I think he was making a point there. I think he was kind of saying that he didn't want Sam to hang around, and if he gave her a flat, because that's what she was first trying to get, wasn't it? That's what she was trying to get Ricky to convince his dad to give her. And I think Jack saw that as an easy in for her. So almost kind of said, as you say, sofa surfing's a bit more of a temporary measure. So I think that was Jack's way of kind of saying, you can stay, but I don't want you to stay on the square for much longer, because, as you say, you're going to start poisoning my son's mind. But he is. He's, to be fair, by the end of the week, Sam had started poisoning Amy as well. All it took was cake. And Amy was like, "My best friend now, and you're horrible, Denise. I hate you, and I'm going to my room." And just was storming upstairs. Same. Yeah. Had to be pulled apart from going for Denise. Amy's a fickle beast, isn't she?
Amy's an angry young girl.
Cake, I mean, she does... She is. I'm looking forward to her getting older and more hormones flying around and her turning into a fury like the young Roxy Mitchell. She's there. She's there in spirit, if not in body. Yes. So Sam's kind of kicking around now for a bit. Where is this going? How long? She's going to sleep with Jack, isn't she? It's inevitable. How long before she sleeps with Jack? How long do you give it? Place your bets, ladies. What would you think?
I mean, I don't think it'll take much convincing. I feel, we all knew that Jack and Denise wasn't going to last for long. But poor Denise, so unlucky in love, isn't she? She goes from one man to the next on the square. And she either breaks up with them, falls out of love with them, or they break up with her. It's like, she doesn't have a lot of luck. Or they end up being serial killers.
Branch out, Denise.
Or getting killed by their ex-husband. It's just like, it just seems to happen to Denise. So I feel bad for her. Maybe she needs to go off the square for a bit and maybe find herself a man and come back again. Sam's going to sleep with Jack and it's going to be a little bit of a secret. I'm on board for an affair. I mean, having heard the news this week of some stories that are coming up in the future of the show, which we will talk about, by the way, if you're going to stay on to the end for I Won't Want to Gossip. The first thing I did was text Rob and say to him, you know what, I just want a good old-fashioned affair. That's all I want. Why can't I have one of those on the show? So
That'll cleanse the palate nicely.
Yes.
It's been a while since we've had an affair. When was our last big beefy affair? We've not had.
Well, Linda, wasn't it? Linda with Max. Would you consider that an affair?
I mean, I suppose it was. But the last one where we had a few months of people creeping around and having sex in alleyways because that was the safest option. All the classy stuff. Was it? It can't have been Shianu. That can't have been the last proper affair story, surely. It's a soap. There must have been one.
Shianu? No, I think it might have been Shianu, Or was it when...
Good God. Well, we were overdue one then.
Yeah. Yeah, we are very well overdue. This is just bread and butter of a soap.
Very
we
overdue.
want an affair. Bring on an affair. I'll be on board with it. I mean, I remember in the 90s and the 2000s, we were overwhelmed with affairs. There were like 2 or 3 happening all at the same time. And now there's none at all. We're having a drought of affairs. I want an affair. Bring one on.
Yes.
Bring one on.
Would you at least an orgy? I like Ricky. I like Ricky kind of piping up a bit more. This is nice to see kind of Ricky back on the fold and sort of becoming a character. It was another week, I think, which will lead into other stuff, but I think it was another one of those weeks where the kids sort of, played all their best cards. I thought there were some great kid performances this week, which come to one of the young actors very shortly when we discussed the Jean story. But yeah, I think overall, I'm quite looking forward to seeing where all this Sam stuff goes. It is nice to have her back. She's camp as a row of tens, but do you know what? That's fine. She's a soap bitch. She's supposed to be. That's just that's fine. It's just their role. I'm enjoying this. Bring it on. I like it. Yeah. I like it.
We have another story. Chelsea feels like she's being haunted at number 1 Albert Square. And her and Whitney kind of decided that they were going to move out, then changed their mind because they realised they had a good thing. But then, I can't believe it took them this long to work this out. Perhaps they can't afford that mortgage. Kim tries to give them advice. And then Chelsea was like, you know what? I can pay off a mortgage on a part-time job working nights in a nightclub. with Dotty. So, a good outcome, I feel. But, do you like this relationship between Whitney and Chelsea? It's kind of grown, hasn't it? Very quickly. They've got a common denominator for what they can be angry about.
I give it a week before... I give it a week before we start seeing #Chitney all over social media, because that seems to be the thing these days. Tends to be what happens. This whole thing with Chelsea and Whitney living at number 1, it doesn't feel like it's going to be forever. It feels like a sort of place. No. Like, it feels for a start, it definitely feels like they haven't got anywhere to put Whitney at the moment. I don't understand why Whitney would want to live there. I don't understand why Chelsea would want to live there, really. Because she now seems to have taken not control, but she seems to have taken Mac and Mia under her arms, as well as her own child. So Chelsea's all of a sudden gone from this girl who absolutely hated kids to suddenly turning into a one-woman creche, and just having kids everywhere.
Mary Poppins.
Yes. Pulled out hair extensions, pulled out a mirror, and then the ladder. I did quite enjoy that scene where Whitney walked in, could hear smashing going on in the living room. She kind of picked up a lamp, ready to strike the offender with. Walked in and then sees Chelsea just throwing things around the living room, and Chelsea literally turns around and goes, "What's my house? I do what I like." So clearly Chelsea
I'll
isn't
trash
that.
I'll
trash it if I like. It's my house. I'm not even paying the mortgage. It seems that they had completely forgotten about this whole mortgage thing, because they were given plenty of warning a few weeks back when Whitney was very cross and was reading that letter in the Vic and had to down a pint to sort of get over the news that Gray was, for some strange reason, not paying the mortgage from within prison. And then didn't mention it for weeks, as though they'd almost gone, well, maybe if we don't think about it and don't talk about it, it'll go away and the mortgage will continue being paid. That happens, right? We're in a soap. It must happen.
My ears and...
Yeah. Funnily enough, that hasn't happened. And Gray's minimum wage from his minimalistic burger bar isn't cutting the mustard anymore. So Whitney is now... But the thing is, Whitney still works on her little stall, which can't be earning her that much money.
Okay.
And now Chelsea is... And then Chelsea is working with Dotty whilst they're living with 3 kids. What could possibly go wrong
Possibly
here,
on minimum wage.
I don't see what the I don't see what the problem here is at all.
They seem... but they seem to sweep it under the gun. It was like, and they even used the line. It was like, well, with this job, Chelsea, you can pay the mortgage. And it was even said as like she can individually pay the mortgage on a part-time night job at Ruby's. And Kim was kind of sat there really impressed with herself as well, with her glasses on the edge of her nose, kind of going, I've solved yet another problem. Foxcatcher out,
Foxcatcher.
Christ.
I cannot believe, incidentally, that we are still hearing the phrase "foxcatcher." How long has it been now? I can't believe this is still a thing. I mean, I don't necessarily despise it, but I just can't believe that it's been this long that they've decided to run with this. They did a storyline about a female genital mutilation that didn't last as long as this. What's going on wrong with there? You know what I mean?
I mean, it's only a matter of time, and it's going to be the longest storyline they've had in about 5 years. But yeah, as just one example, that's just one story that they've only done for a short term, and Foxcatcher's still going. Oh dear, Rob, dear, Hysteria's kicked in. Do you feel disappointed for Kim that she didn't get number one Albert Square back? Because bless her, I'd like to have seen her move back into that place with Patrick. And Patrick brought his lamp with him.
Yeah, do you know what? I think I'd have preferred it. I think Kim suits like quite an extravagant house. I like the idea of her, getting all used to her bathroom fixtures and fittings and sort of refurbishing the place the way she wanted it. And I think I would have preferred that, in all honesty, rather than whatever this is with Welsh and Chitney, with Chelsea and Whitney. I don't know. I don't know where they're going with this. It just seems Welsh and Chitney. It just doesn't seem like this is going to last, because, like I said, they've got 2 very, very low-paying jobs with 3 kids in the house, and they're planning on paying the whole entire mortgage off and bills in East End of London with those wages. Cool. Yeah. Like I say, I don't see what's right. So the only solution in my mind is that Sam buys number 1. But then, where's she going to get that money from? But that seems like the most sensible solution.
But no, see, and that's where I thought it was heading. I thought that we were going to get Sam moving into number 1. I had these wild ideas that she'd come back with a partner and children and blah blah blah. None of that's happened.
Crazy ideas.
But then last week we said that she would come to go to the pub, and so now I'm kind of more inclined that that's going to happen, like the Sam and Janine kind of fight, because there was parallels this week as well between Sam and Janine, wasn't there? I felt that the lot of Janine's story kind of matched up and mirrored kind of what's happening with Sam. So yeah, sadly, I don't think we're going to get much from number 1. And you were saying that, so that leads us very nicely actually to the next story, which is that Linda's back behind the bar at the Vic. Despite her alcoholism and the warnings from Nancy that Mick's not going to be very happy about it. She's there behind the bar. Mick walks back in with Janine, and Janine's made it her goal now to tell everyone how much sex they had on their little jaunt away while home and Mick. There's like pictures on her phone, God only knows of what, presumably of like Danny Dyer holding like one of those giant balls on that game show, Drop Point or whatever it's called,
Go on, darling. Drop them. Though, to be fair, we discover later on in the week that absolutely nothing is happening between the sheets between Mick and Janine, and this is what I suspected was going to happen. Did I voice them? Because I really hope I did, because if I did, I look clever. If I didn't, then I look like I'm just jumping on the bandwagon. But I think I mentioned it, that I don't think that they're going to have Mick and Janine sleep together at all, and they're going to keep Mick sort of like a virgin other than Linda.
Pure.
You know what I mean? I think just his L is going to be the only one that's kind of crossed that purely East End snow. Because I suspect this was going to happen. Whatever they were doing when they went off on this little jaunt, nothing Janine planned worked. She had all her sexy underwear, didn't get a twinge off Mick. So I wonder where this is going now. Is Janine going to lose interest? Because that seems like Janine's way. To sort of, if he doesn't show interest in her, she would take that as a personal insult, and then we'll just say, right, fine, I'll destroy you then. I would say, if you're not going to have sex with me, I will literally destroy your life, and I will take all your livelihood away, and I will make sure that your wife's a proper alcoholic by the time I'm done as well. Seems like Janine's style, doesn't it? So I have to say, I really loved the Linda stuff this week. It was quite strong. I loved her sort of battling her own temptations behind the bar, no matter how much Janine was sort of like needling her. And she, I say she stayed strong. She did stay strong until right towards the end of the week, where she snuck off behind down an alleyway to have a little shot of vodka. So it is still there, and it seemed like a pretty mad idea that she'd be able to get through a few shifts at the pub without temptation kicking in, didn't it?
Bless her. I mean, I felt bad for Linda, and she tried her best to try to sway Mick. In fact, she did a really good job, I thought, because when they had that little chat at the back, she kind of, indicated to Mick that, I know that I'm still your one. I know that you still think about me, and kind of gave him the kind of sexy stare, sexy look, and kind of a wink, and then kind of walked back behind the bar. But then she saw Janine and realised that this is going to be a bit more of an uphill battle.
Yes, I noticed that. Because at one point Linda sort of turned around to him and said, yeah, well, it's not my fault you don't trust yourself, and then just sort of walked vampily away with a packet of crisps. So it's pretty obvious, isn't it? I mean, obviously Mick still is in love with her. That was never in dispute, I don't think, was it? We knew that wasn't just going to be quashed like that, and not even the powers of Janine Butcher are going to put a stop to that. So I'm sort of, it kind of suggests what's going to happen in my mind. The prediction I have is that Mick and Linda are going to realise, we are made for each other. Then Janine is going to kind of get wind of this and start trying to take revenge, and that's going to lead into Mick's exit. We've always thought that Janine was going to be quite instrumental in Mick's exit, and I think what that might be able to do is whatever Janine does and whatever kind of madness happens, it might hopefully mean that Mick can leave alive for whatever reason if he has to escape or something like, what Janine's like. Anything might happen. But it might mean that sort of Mick can leave alive, but him and Linda are still, like, obviously in love, so there is a sort of semblance of a happy ending. Do you know what I mean? But I think I'd quite like it to sort of go like that.
I do. Yeah. Because I think I agree with the fact that I think now, I was adamant that I didn't think Mick and Linda were going to leave together, but I think they are going to leave together. I always knew that Linda couldn't stay with Mick not being there. Do you not think? I don't think Linda can stay there. I don't think the character would survive.
No, because why would they? Why? No, of course she can. I think she can. I think she can survive, and I don't think they'd want to lose Kelly Bright as well. I don't. And Kelly Bright's made no noise that she's planning on leaving, because otherwise, what was the point in her coming back from maternity leave? Really, if she was just going to leave permanently a few months later. So I don't want Linda to leave at all, because there's no reason why Linda necessarily has to leave when the rest of the Carters are all still there. You know what Linda's like. She's a family woman at the end of the day. Oh, something horrific can happen to Nancy. Oh no, Nance needs me, or I need to stay, or something can keep Linda there. What happens from that point onwards remains to be seen. That's in the land of Clenners, and the Pat Killer apparently. So I don't know. We'll see. I think there is a way for Mick and Linda to sort of have a happy ending and separate. But Mick, I think, has to remain alive. Right. But I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. I think it's going to be around Christmas time that happens. Do you not think? I think Mick's exit is going to be... seems like a good time for Mick to leave, doesn't it? Christmas time. Seems right.
It seems a long way away. I think Danny Dyer would want to go early. I don't think they would have announced it that early if it was going to be that far. I don't know how long his contract...
He said it was coming at the end of his contract, didn't he? So I don't know how long contracts last for. And bearing in mind the difference in filming and scheduling and transmissions and all that sort of thing. I don't know.
They can always extend. They can always extend contracts. No, of course we don't know. Yeah, this is all theories.
We don't know.
But they can always extend it. But I don't know. I just think I can't see Linda being on the square on her own. But I suppose Nancy and Zack are there. You're right. Nancy and Zack are there. Because Nancy and Zack have a restaurant now, so that's new. A bit... Yeah, there are reasons for her to stay. But I wonder... I don't know. I just can't see it. But then, who am I? Who am I but a small man? A small man. For Sharon. Because Sharon's path seems to be going back down toward Phil's arms, to me. It feels like we're heading toward a Cat and Sharon showdown once Sam's been moved out of the way. Because I think Sam's going to be moved out of the way to be then the Janine Sam story. So then that makes room for then Sharon and Kat, because they kept alluding a lot last week that Sharon is now thinking Sharon is obviously still in love with Phil, hence why she's helping him out so much. So I feel like they're kind of planting the seed for that. Gosh, we're putting out some theories this week, aren't we?
I think because I think that what they're doing with Kat and Sharon is they're basically going to try and recreate the whole Pat and Peggy thing, aren't they, with Frank? I think that's the general tone of what they're going to do.
Yes.
And there will be a scene.
Phil ain't
there will
Frank.
Definitely 100. No, he's not. But there definitely will be a scene where one slaps the other, and they'll do something. I can guarantee it. I can see it on the horizon. There's going to be some sort of you bitch, you cow moment between Sharon and Kat. Both would be great at it, because it sounds like a good old camp time that both characters would be great at. But I don't know. But we'll see. Like I said, all theories. There's some potential excitement down the road, so I look forward to it with slight trepidation. But I am looking forward to it. So let's see what happens. But so there we are.
Okay, so last story then, before we get to I Want to Gossip, and we are going to talk about Jean's story. Pretty much carried on from last week. Jean's kind of escalating to Friday's episode, where we had, as one person described it, as a film student project. Seems a bit harsh.
Okay.
let's discuss then. So. Let's discuss then so building up to this point. Then obviously Jean has been getting more and more broken, and she breaks up with Harvey, puts on the wedding dress, and heads on off to the seaside because she wants to. I think she wants to see Daniel again. She wants to get back with Daniel, but a few things happen along the way, and perhaps that could be what people maybe liked or disliked. Generally, what did you think?
Well, so for the most part, I thought it was actually quite a strong episode. I loved how, it feels like we haven't done this for a while. I loved how it was, the Jean story was the only focus of the episode. I love it when EastEnders does that, and it's something that they don't do often enough these days, and so I loved that. Gillian Wright was incredible, because she always is.
Yes.
Lacey Turner was incredible. Yeah. Loved for the most part, I absolutely loved it. I could have, let's be honest, I'll say it now because you knew I was going to say it. I could have done without the music. Of course, I could have done without the music.
Yes,
and I could have done a little bit without. I could have done without Jean's reflection glaring at her when she wasn't even looking at the reflection. So it was like we were tripping out as opposed to her. I didn't quite understand that, but in all honesty, let's be fair. Once upon a time, that would have been a lot worse. So I'll take it. It was good actually. It was fun. It was a fun old time. I loved the fact that the things that the show does to poor Gillian Wright. They'll send her up the London Eye. They'll send her on a roller coaster. They'll send her into the Thames. Bless her, she's a trooper, isn't she, our Gillian? Gotta love her. Knight that woman, I say. All the awards. I really liked Stacey's panic of it, and I liked Martin's involvement as well, actually. And I'd loved, actually, the Cat and Lily moment. This seems to be a thing now, because it's not just been the one episode where Lily's mentioned it. It seems to be a thing that Lily is genuinely going to start being concerned that she's going to be bipolar as well. Perfect. Absolutely. I loved that. Other bits, there was the scene where, Stacey was saying that Jean was manic. And was looking for a thrill, when in reality Jean went on a roller coaster and had a hot dog. So I don't know if manic was quite a risk taking was quite the right word for that.
I mean,
but
crazy.
Well, to be fair though, eating a hot dog with ketchup when you're wearing a white dress, that is nail biting. I won't even do that. I won't do that. So you could tell she was ill because that's craziness. What did you think? Did you enjoy it?
Mad.
Yeah. Mad.
Yeah. Okay. So, the build up actually I thought felt right. It felt nice, and it was the right pace to get there. I like that Harvey felt devastated. Something we must remember on Thursday's episode. I keep forgetting it's Monday to Thursday. We'll get corrected on the comments on YouTube very soon. Isn't it? Yeah. Harvey was very upset because he felt like he was played like a fool, not on purpose by Jean, but like he kind of held on to something that he wanted really badly, and Jean gave him that attention that he badly needed. And although she didn't seem to care about Aaron, he still wanted her. He still cared about her. He still wanted to look after her. It was almost like it was second chance, almost like because he didn't do the right thing with Aaron, so he's trying now to or maybe his ex-wife, which we still don't know enough about. I still would like to know more about that. No. That's the one thing. I wish that Harvey had opened up more to Rocky while they were eating cake. Learn more about his wife, so that why he felt like it would have been nice, because we could have learned then why he was so attracted by Jean. Yeah, because they could have gone from Jean to Harvey and back and forth. So I wish they delved a bit deeper with that, and then perhaps they wouldn't have felt like the scenes with Jean at the fairground weren't so weird. I mean, there were bits when I actually quite enjoyed it, and then when there was bits then I just thought this is silly and I don't like this and this is really silly. I like the House of Mirrors. Like there was a bit when Stacey walked into the mirror and I laughed. I felt bad for laughing.
I really
and I felt really bad for laughing.
To the point where I spat out the tea that was in my mouth when that happened.
Well, then Lacey Turner seemed to react as if she didn't realise what she had done, And so,
oh my god! Imagine if that was accidental and they just kept it in. Imagine if it was a blooper and they just kept it in.
I know, it seems a bit cruel.
I know what you mean.
It was a bit.
A bit this and that. I know what you mean. I do know what you mean. For me, it sort of balanced the line, stuck its toe over the line occasionally. But for the most part, I did enjoy it. I don't know. It just felt. I do agree. It felt a little bit uneven in places, but I think for the most part, it did what it set out to do, which was to sort of put ourselves in Jean's shoes. You know, again, I thought the all the effects and stuff, they could have been worse. They would have been worse at one point. So I'll sort of take what we got. But you know, like I say, I think the performances sold it. And I thought it was a decent script as well. So I think you know, Gillian and Lacey Turner sold it massively. They were great. The bit where sort of Jean went into the sea. I mean, to be fair, the episode looked like it cost a fair amount. They sent half the actors out on a coach and sent them off to Southend, sent them to the fair, sent them to the beach. So, and had Gillian running around all day in a wedding dress. That wasn't fun.
Having a great time. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the bit in the sea at the end actually was the one bit which I have to say I quite enjoyed. I did enjoy that. I liked that when Stacey shouted out, because there was that conversation with Martin where Martin said, when you finally saw me, you finally realised what you were doing, and that's when you accepted and you wanted to help. And so they did that again. It was obvious that was where it was heading. So then Jean started walking into the sea. Basically, she said to Stacey, "You know, I need to go to Daniel." So that was really sad, and I felt for Jean at that point. And when she finally turned around, and when Stacey had it out with Jean, and Jean finally turned around, Jean admitted, "I know what's happening to me right now. I know this is a manic episode, but I just can't handle it." It's almost like she was defeated, and she was like, "I cannot do this anymore." And then she went into the sea and proceeded to try to drown. That was powerful. That I enjoyed. I really liked that. I just didn't like the build up to it. I don't mind a chase. That's a real like stock thing to do on EastEnders or any soap really, where two characters are chasing another one to kind of, because they've gone awry for one reason or the next. And so, you know, I dare say a shenanigan just without the warehouse. But for everything that built up to the end, I was fine. So that was fine about. And I love, and like you say, if it was any lesser and actors or actresses, like, you know, James Bye was good as well. And the actress who plays Lily, I'm sorry, I forget the actress's name. Lacey Turner.
Lillian Turner, I think. Lillian Turner, I think her name is.
Okay, and they all of them are great. Honestly, really, really great.
Yeah.
But if it had been done with any lesser actors, I don't think they could have pulled it off the way they did. You're right. You know, if this had been 6 months ago, then the effects perhaps might have been a little bit more on the drastic side. You know, those mirrors would have started swinging around, and you'd have had like close up of the clowns.
The mirrors, it would have. I was going to say it would have been it. It would have been it, and Jean would have been chased around the mirror maze by a scary clown with a balloon. So let's just be grateful, all right? Let's be grateful for small mercies. Yes, the mirrors distorted a little bit, but they didn't chase Jean around the fairground. So do you know what? We'll take it.
Did you like the bits when Janine was hallucinating? And like the main one was when she was on the beach and she drew the heart in the sand. And sorry, Jean was hallucinating and she drew the heart in the sand.
Yeah,
and she saw everyone on the sand playing. That felt a bit jarring for me.
Well, no, it bypassed me for a few minutes because I was kind of I thought that those people genuinely were there. So maybe that's what I was supposed to think, and we were just seeing it. Maybe we were just seeing it. Maybe I was Jean for that moment, because I remember. But then once they all went away, I think what was mainly in my mind was, But to be fair, I think once all the people went away and I sort of understood what was going on, I think most of my mood at that moment was, oh, here we go, here they come, here the effects come. It's going to be a good old FX episode. I can see it coming a mile off. But you know, for the most part, they genuinely kind of held back and left it all to Gillian, which is how it should be. You know, they've had a habit over the past few years of letting the effects and the music and stuff do the talking instead of the actors. And for the most part, in this episode, I think they let the actors do the hard work, and it paid off. So yes, my overall opinion on it was stepped over the line occasionally, but for the most part, they pulled it off, and I thought all the performances were great. So. Yeah, is that like I think that's a fair analysis, really, isn't it? Like, you know, fair play, did well. It felt like a nice, different episode with a change of location because it made a change for the characters to leave the square because I swear they never do these days. So that was nice. It felt like we were going on holiday almost, didn't it? It felt like we went to the seaside. Yes. For the future, Well, it's just this feels like the end of this. Like it feels like the climax of this story now, doesn't it? Like Jean's sort of had her moment of yes, I know I'm ill, so now what? Jean's going to go to hospital. Her and Harvey presumably aren't going to get married. Harvey spent most of the episode eating the cake because he was that concerned about Jean. Really, and was just sort of feeling sorry for himself. Well, really, at the end of the day, wasn't it? He was just him and Rocky kind of talking and having man banter. And not really worrying about Jean whilst they devoured an entire wedding cake that Jean had ordered for their wedding. So it kind of feels like Jean and Harvey aren't really going to happen now.
I feel the main concern now that moving on is that obviously Jean's going to get the help and the care that she needs. I hope we see that actually, because we don't tend to see as much of the after. We see the manic episodes, but we don't see the But this is a trend that's happened before with Stacey and with Jean.
Yes.
And I forget her name now, but the other said Sherry. There was a little bit of aftermath with her, and then she ran away. It just felt like Haley Slater, and so I feel like that. A bit. That was a good year. The hair in the card, burned in the fire. So, goodness me. Sorry, Alfie falling down the stairs, hitting his head. Jean making tea for everyone. That was a time to be alive. So, I'd like to see the aftermath because I'd like to see Lily now kind of conversing with Jean and discussing her fears with Jean. Because I think Jean is the one who could maybe settle her fears better than anyone else.
Yeah, massively. Because what I seem to remember, which I quite liked, was the closeness that Lily and Jean have. You could almost sort of believe that this was the same Lily who sort of hid in Jean's caravan the last time she went off when everything was going on with Sean, I think was going on at the time. But I mean, maybe not completely, because I think this Lily would probably have just kicked the caravan door in. But it's you can sort of imagine that it was the same character. So that's nice, and I agree with you. It'd be really nice to sort of see, maybe if they send Jean to hospital, Lily comes and sees her, and then they have a kind of conversation. That would be really nice. I would like that. Doesn't seem like much to ask for, does it? So we'll see. Really. We'll see how it goes. The other side of things, of course, as well, is which we briefly mentioned, which we must touch on, was the stuff that was going on with Aaron this week. Aaron was stabbed in prison, is now in hospital. Presumably will make it out alive. Where is this going? I don't get what's happening here, because it's not like, the prisoners are going to say, well, do you know what, Harvey, actually, your son's in danger in prison, so we'll tell you what, you look after him. We'll let him out, just so he doesn't get stabbed. That's not going to happen. So, where is this going? Because they didn't need to kind of keep Aaron around to do everything that they've sort of done with Aaron so far, really, in the grand scheme of things, did they? So, where is this going?
I feel like that there was one line that Harvey said this week where he said that because Aaron has shown this kind of resilience and didn't want the mobile phone and didn't accept the mobile phone from his dad, and that told his dad to bin it, that he's now made a turning point and that Aaron will now stand up to the bullies, and that is that. And I feel like at that moment, the race storyline had ended. Like, I felt like that was that. and I don't know, because I think that people want to see Aaron stay on, and I'm sure there'll still be remnants of it when he does come out of prison, because no doubt the sentence will be shortened for one way or another. He's found God, or he's good behaviour, because it's the same as Phil. Phil should be in prison for life, but he'll get out of prison next week. We all know, whatever. So Aaron will get out of prison, because I think he's a character that people have attached themselves to. Sorry.
Yeah, I have attached myself to it. Phil and Aaron are clearly in the same prison, by the way, because the waiting room that the visitors' room that they use is exactly the same, and they've made no effort to redress the two. So they are clearly in the same prison. Why can we not have one scene of Aaron and Phil? I mean, I guess you get different wings. Maybe he's in a. I mean, I don't even know how old Aaron is. He's in his 20s, surely, isn't he? So it's not like he's going to be in a youth offender.
Mid-20s, I think.
Like that. Yeah, so it stands to reason that him and Phil would be in a similar sort. As soon as though they live in the same square, it would make sense that they would live in the same sort of wing on a prison, wouldn't it? It feels very mad to me. Let's be honest, it's probably not. Going to happen, is it?
No.
It would make
but there's
sense,
an argument there that Lucas is there. And Gray is there, Phil is there, and there's a lot of them there at the moment. This is almost becoming a spin-off in itself. Let's just be honest.
Boys.
All there was in the 80s was Dirty Den and Nasty Nick in the same prison, and they made a full spin-off of that. Dick and Zill, didn't they?
Yeah.
It all happened. So No, I mean their paths don't cross on the main show, so.
No, but all I will say is if the producers of the show would like me to write the pilot episode for Prisoner Block E20, I'm more than happy to. I think there's lots of potential there. So
he will.
Send me a bell. I will.
There's a pilot there. There's a pilot there.
Tap, tap, tap.
But yes,
I'll do it.
Tap, 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 tap.
There we are.
So there you go. So yeah, I think that's that then. I mean, I'm very keen to get on board now. That was the week to talk about. I want to gossip because we have got a couple of spoilers now. So from this point onwards, we are going to talk about stories that they've announced they're doing, but we are going to talk about what you guys think of them and also how they kind of intertwined with this week's episodes and going forward. So here is I Ain't Want to Gossip.
You know me, I ain't want to gossip.
So, as I've said on this week's I Ain't Want to Gossip, we're going to talk about two stories that were released this week that's happening on EastEnders. The first one is the Ben Mitchell male rape storyline, where the new character Lewis has not been introduced for no reason. It's been released that he is actually going to attack Ben, ultimately, in a storyline where Ben gets raped. That's one storyline that was released this week. And the second one was that Stuart is going to have male postnatal depression, which is also a very rare thing to talk about. And he's going to reject Roland, and also in the process, perhaps, his drug addiction might become more serious because of it. We asked you to get in touch with us and let us know what you guys thought. I'm going to read out one email, the first email. This is concerning the Ben storyline, and Rob and I are going to also talk about how we feel about these stories as well. So we're going to start with the Ben story then. And our first one is from Ray. Thank you, Ray. And they said, "Hi, Rob and Alex. I love the podcast. I listen to it the day it drops when I'm on my way to work, and I cannot praise you enough for the work and dedication you guys do. So thank you very much. While I think it's important to tell a rape storyline with male victims, as male sexual assault and rape isn't talked about enough or taken seriously, I can't help but wonder if Ben's character is going in the same direction as Ronnie Mitchell's, where all he does is experience trauma and misery, and then occasionally will do some problematic action. I also just think with the recent storyline where he's being Walford Batman and beating up homophobes, there's a lot going on at once, and it could easily turn into a mess of a storyline if it's not handled properly. I can't help but ask, am I wrong for thinking Ben was the wrong choice? What would you have done instead to tell this storyline? So thank you, as I say, Ray, thank you for your email. Yeah, so Rob, what do you think about this storyline then? Do you think it's the right story to tell?
Right, okay. So, I haven't heard these emails yet. So, really interesting points right there, and I agree with a lot of it. In fact, some of what was mentioned in there, I was going to say to you about this. Okay, we are in a bit of an era at the moment where Ben is sort of the character to throw all the bad stuff at. I remember a few years back now, Deirdre Santa, who was the executive producer around the time of the 25th anniversary, Who Killed Archie, all that sort of era, the Danielle stuff. He once said in an interview that, regarding all the stuff that they'd been throwing at Ronnie at the time, that he actually used the phrase, "We've run out of ways to make Ronnie cry." And that feels very relevant with Ben at the moment. This is a very sort of harrowing story to throw at any character. And it sort of feels to me as though... Now, don't get me wrong, before we go into any further with this discussion, I want to make it quite clear that, I can't speak for Alex, but I know for a fact that the show is beyond capable of pulling the storyline off. I think all the actors, including, Max, Tony Clay, the guy who plays Aidan, his name escapes me at the moment, they will all be excellent. I have no doubt of that. I know for a fact the show will have researched it endlessly. All the actors will do their job, and the episodes themselves will be good within their own context. I agree that I don't think Nam is the right character to do this with, because I feel like it's just a bit much to throw at one character. Because what we're being expected to believe here is that we spoke quite openly about the homophobia story and how Ben's perception of his own sexuality kind of felt real to both of us, didn't we? We sort of discussed how we thought it was perfectly natural for someone who had witnessed that much homophobia to sort of be reluctant to show off their own sexuality too much. So what we've got here now is a guy that is kind of afraid of showing off his own sexuality. to the point where he doesn't even want his husband to sort of make that much noise about himself. Along comes this guy who is totally open, a bit camper than Ben, kind of indisputably gay. I think is the attitude we're supposed to get from Lewis, isn't it? And what we're supposed to believe is that Ben, who is going through all this, instead of just kind of having Lewis as a mate and realising that if Lewis can do it, then why can't I? We've got a sort of new type of gay character that we haven't really seen before in EastEnders that's kind of quite happy and sort of instantly likeable. In fact, goes completely the opposite way and rapes Ben. It just feels a bit too much for one character. I am reminded, actually, of, talking of Ronnie again, I am sort of reminded of, it reminds me a little bit of the baby swap story, where you had Ronnie, who by that point had lost, I think when James died, it was, kid number 3, kid number 4, something crazy like that. And instead of focusing purely on the emotional turmoil that would bring to that character, they then had to take it a step further and bring in the whole baby swap thing. Which I think the general feeling was it felt like a step too far. And for me, this is a step too far with Ben. I don't for a second say that it's the wrong story to tell for the show. And we'll talk in a minute about the fact that obviously this storyline happened over at Corrie and the ramifications of it were really, really positive for audience. Helpline numbers went through the roof. I think Survivors, which is the charity that EastEnders is working with, and I think they worked on Corrie with their male rape story with David Platt, they said their helplines went up by 1,700%, which of course is a brilliant thing. That's the reason you tell these stories. What do you think? I mean, for me, it's kind of, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm on a similar page to you, to be fair, Rob. I feel like it's a story that can be told. I don't think it's fair. I know there's a lot of people who have said, like, oh, it's just Kate Oates doing the same stories again. She did it on Coronation Street already. I mean, okay, fine. She did it on Coronation Street already. It doesn't mean she can't do it again if she wants to on EastEnders. Stories are told again on soaps all the time. Earlier on the show, I was saying how I like affair storylines, and they were used all the blooming time. They still are to this day. They're just stories. Obviously, I don't want to water down the severity of a male rape storyline by saying it's the same as that. But you know what I'm saying. And like you, I feel like it's disappointing, and I feel a bit let down that they've chosen Lewis to be the character that does it, because it's so refreshing. It was so refreshing to have on the show a positive, happy, good in his own skin, gay man on the show. It was a great representation for gay people, and if young people are watching that, it's fantastic. It shows that, you know what, you can you can be happy. Of course, you give Lewis storylines, but why do you have to do this? Why do you have to make him a rapist toward Ben? It concerns me that they felt like that was the right thing to do. It worries me that that's what they thought that's the right direction to take. And I know a lot of people have been comparing it to a TV series that's on Netflix at the moment called Heartstopper, and I get where they're coming from with that, because that's a really positive show. When we've talked about this on the show before, I watched Queer as Folk. When I was 15, it helped me immensely. It helped me with my sexuality. It made me want to come out. It made me want to be, happy within my skin. And I just feel like, why it upsets me that they've done this to Lewis. It really upsets me. And at the same time, concerning, it being done to Ben, does it need to be done with Ben? He's gay, okay, fine. But does that necessarily mean that he should have, male rape? David Platt in Coronation Street isn't gay, but essentially that's the story that they told with that. I mean, okay, it gives it maybe a different angle, a different twist. People have discussed perhaps it could have happened to Callum, different people. But I feel let down. I feel let down that the representation of gay characters, especially after they made such a big deal of having a Pride Week, 2-3 years ago, and now they're killing off or just getting rid of gay characters left, right and centre. And then the cherry on the top is that they've introduced a really lovely character like Lewis, and he's a rapist. And it's just, I feel like that's really scuzzy, and I don't like that. That's disappointing.
to me, it kind of feels a little bit sort of like it's we've discussed this before about sort of issue, all fall down. It feels like another issue to sort of address. Which fine, but we're sort of in issue. We can't, there's everywhere. I think there's about 4 different issue storylines going on at the same time at any one point. This is a big one, all right. And what we're saying here doesn't take away from the seriousness of the discussion, all right? And it is a discussion that needs to be having because it's an underrepresented topic. The fact that Survivors exists as a charity means that this is a story that needs discussing, all right? Obviously, me and you are talking about this as people who have not been through what Ben is about to go through. And we're talking about it as sort of 2 gay men who are looking at a character that we thought Lewis was and thinking, oh, great, fantastic. This is different. This feels different. We've had Ben. We've watched Ben his entire life. We know what Ben's story was. His own struggle with his sexuality. We've then had Callum come in, and have his own struggle and sort of. But we had Paul, who was sort of a Lewis type at first, killed off. It's like the show isn't happy to show us those sorts of characters. It feels like the last character we had that was anything like that was possibly Christian. And
it was Christian, Christian Saeed.
I think even Christian was a sort of character of his time as well. If you look at I'm going through 2008, 2009 at the minute, and there's a few things with Christian where you kind of think, a bit risque, which you feel like the show wouldn't get away with these days. Showing Christians being basically a bit of a perv in places, which kind of was the accepted perception of homosexuality in those days. You could sort of joust at it, you could sort of take the mick out of it a little bit. You still can, but it's everything's sort of altered now. It's all sort of gone to a little bit of a different viewpoint with it. My main bugbear with this is the fact that it's Ben. All right, it just feels like another thing to throw at Ben. Because Ben, again, I'm not criticising Max Bowden because I think he always delivers with increasingly exhausting storylines. I think for both him and for audience, I find Ben to be these days quite an exhausting character in a lot of ways because it's like they are just making him go through such mental anguish to the point where this is an issue that shouldn't be used as an additional anguish. This is enough of an issue to be like that's the story. That is the story on its own. You shouldn't use rape as an additional reason for that character to be angry at the world. So obviously we've got limited. Obviously we have limited details at the moment about how the story is going to play out.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of been quite fortunate that Lewis hasn't been around this week because otherwise it would have. I think we would instantly have been looking at it and looking at everything that's happened so far up to now. I was quite glad that Lewis wasn't in it this week, in all honesty. Presumably he's going to show up maybe next week or the week after, and then the story will begin. I don't know. Like I say, I don't think the story will be done lightly. I think they'll do it right. They'll do the story right, and they will throw out all the helplines and all the and it will hopefully have the desired effects and help people that have been in that position. Again, something that we're not talking down at all. We are talking merely as fans of the show who are looking at characters that we know and love. And whether it's right to throw this much at one character is my own personal problem with it.
Fair. No, fair. I have another email from Jack. Thank you, Jack. And they wrote, "Hi guys, I've been listening to the podcast since the early days. Always brightens up my weekends. Thank you very much. But have never written in before. I really felt the show was starting to improve and think Sam's return has been excellent so far. However, the news about the new Ben storyline has left me feeling a bit off. Male sexual abuse is undoubtedly an important topic to cover on the show, but why introduce Lewis as an openly proud and confident gay man, which is a refreshing change for the show, only to turn him into a predator? And there are many reasons why Ben shouldn't have been selected for the story either. He's been given so many big storylines, and why couldn't it be characters like Jay or Vinny be given something high profile for once? His mum has been raped twice. He's already going through a period of self-hatred, and he's a murderer and ex-human trafficker. I don't doubt that the show will handle the story with sensitivity while on screen. But this setup really seems misguided and borderline offensive." So yeah, I think that sums up how we both feel in that second email. It's an important story to tell. Of course, it's an important story to tell. it just, I don't know. It just, there's remnants there of when they discussed when they told everyone there was going to be the bomb storyline, and they threw that out into the world and the reaction that caused. So, I don't know. Is that maybe they kind of wanted to see what people's reactions would be with it? But I don't think I think it's a bit too late to maybe rechange things.
I mean, no, I think they'll have filmed it all now, and
Yeah.
it's sort of just coming, soon. It's disappointing in. I think the character choices are disappointing in this more than anything. And like I say, nothing on any of the actors that are going to be involved with this, because they will all be brilliant, because we know that they are.
Yes.
Because they've all sort of been given stuff before. Even the guy who plays Agent, already we can tell he's going to be more than capable. You can sort of tell with some actors, can't you? Which I think is why we became so quickly connected with Lewis, because he was very good on screen automatically, and that kind of happens. It kind of reminds me a bit of Grey. When Grey was first introduced, we loved him because he felt different and positive for all the right reasons. And all of a sudden, he's a murderer, he's an abuser. Same with Lewis. Oh my God, you're really, 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 really positive. Oh, okay, you were a rapist. Great. It's all right. Okay, yeah, cool. Do the story. Show him about the character choices. It's going to be heavy. So we'll see how it goes. We're not against the story per se, but it's just sort of some of the logistics of it feel a bit off to us, I think, is the main problem.
Yeah. So the second story that was released was Stuart's postnatal depression storyline that he's got, and we got a great email from Jordan. Thank you, Jordan, who got in touch with us. He also gave his thoughts on Ben, but we're going. I hope you don't mind, but we're going to just talk about what you said about Stuart. So it says, from what I can remember, I've not known a soap to cover this for a male before, so this is something very new. Ricky Champ has been portraying Stuart fantastically. And what an arc he's had since he first joined 4 years ago. I would say the painkiller addiction storyline works well with the postnatal depression storyline, perhaps as Stuart's way of dealing with everything, but also as we have seen this week, using the painkillers as an excuse not to get close to his baby while under the influence. It's sadly the case in life, people have more than one thing going on at once, so I really like the way they've done this. With postnatal depression and painkiller addiction storylines, could Stuart sadly be heading towards taking his own life? I hope I doubt it, and I hope not, but it still could be a possibility. I hope and pray that Stuart makes it out to the other end with all these storylines by the end of the year, especially to give a good message to men in particular on getting help and support on these issues. So yeah, again, a good point. It's never been covered again. I've discussed before, yes, and you've said it at the top of this section, issue. I sometimes have an issue with issues, but it's fine, As he says, Ricky Champ will knock it out of the park. Ricky Champ is excellent actor. Yeah, not a doubt in my mind at all. And I think the characters around him will be really good too. I think Rainey will be great. I think, I think Vi might be quite interesting around this as well. And I think it'd be interesting to see if they're going to coincide the Ben storyline alongside Stuart's storyline, how Callum's going to be torn one way or the other.
In half, I'd imagine. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually. I haven't even thought of that. My thing with the Stuart storyline is kind of similar to the Ben storyline. It kind of feels like... Again, the story we've got with Stuart at the moment is... Okay, so he is going into chemotherapy from having the breast cancer. And he's worried that the painkillers are going to make him become addicted. That kind of feels like a suitable story within itself. It's kind of like... is the postnatal depression storyline, which presumably is there to sort of push him more towards the drugs. It's kind of like, does that feel like a necessary addition? Is that kind of one layer too much? Again, we're very sparse on details at the moment, so we're just sort of theorising how it might play out. But at the moment, it sort of feels like an additional extra that isn't really necessary. But I don't know. This I haven't got as many issues with, because it's nice for Stuart to have a big story like this. The same with Rainey. It's like the Highways had quite a quiet few months, so it's nice to have them sort of out the forefront like this. And like you say, Ricky Champ will knock it out of the park. I know he will. And this will be this will be Vi's reckoning. Telling you now, this is when Vi steps forward, and by the time our character rankings come next year, Julia's theme for Vi. I'm telling you now, that's where she'll be. Again, yeah, it's a bit of an issue storyline. Again, you don't know. You loved Mitch after Grey Week, and you didn't think that was possible. So you just hold your horses, young fella, me lad.
It was a blip. It was a blip.
Yeah, so I haven't got as many issues with this as I do it's not something I was massively aware of, male postnatal depression. It's interesting, I think, with soaps at the moment, and this isn't just EastEnders, all right? Clearly, if you look around and look at some of the storylines that the other soaps are doing at the moment, do you realise Corrie, about a couple of days ago, they announced that a character who is, I think, about 16 is going to go through the menopause. That's, so menopause in really young girls. So I've never heard of this. I've never heard of this at all. But presumably it's an issue that affects people. But this is my point. It's all of these soaps is like they're doing, and the thing about issue storylines is they sort of lose their impact if they are everywhere. If you've got an affair stuff kicking off, you've got all your standard soap storylines going on, and then there's a really nice serious issue based storyline in the middle of all these typical soapy stuff. It feels like the issue storyline stands out more. What doesn't stand out more is if you have lots of those sorts of storylines all going on concurrently. And that's how the soaps tend to seem to be telling their stories at the moment. It's sort of like immediate. It's sort of looking at like, bang, there we go. That's rape. Bang, bipolar. Bang, personality disorder. And it's kind of like, chill out. Like, tell these stories like as they're supposed to be told, as opposed to just on the conveyor belt. Which is sort of how issue storylines feel these days. Like, I mentioned the FGM storyline at the start, flippantly halfway through the podcast, but that is a prime example of what I'm talking about, okay? That was a storyline that deserved to be told properly, and it wasn't. It was told within a couple of weeks, and then all the main action that required all of the work, frankly, happened off screen. That's not how you're supposed to tell an issue-based story.
If at all.
Okay? But that's how... That's kind of how some of these storylines are starting to come across. It's just,
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I feel like they're just throwing so much issues at us now, and that's why I have an issue with the issues. I didn't know that about Coronation Street. And my God, I mean, you're right. It happens. Obviously, it happens. But it's like I just don't know. I don't know who are they aiming that toward, really? Other than shock value. That's just shock value. And the thing is, if you do it too often, it's a bit like reality television. If you do it too often, you keep wanting to shock the audience, eventually they're going to become immune to it, and nothing's going to shock the audience anymore. And that's why viewers are turning off, because they're trying too hard to keep shocking the audience. Get back to your roots. Get back to your roots. That's what I say.
I mean, that's what my hairdresser says as well. You completely sum it up. It's and of course the other problem is there are only so many issue storylines in the world that you can tell. Eventually, you're going to run out of issues to tell. I'm cautiously optimistic. That's what I will say. But as you say, I'm more inclined to agree with the Stuart storyline, or than what they're doing with Ben and poor old Lewis. I feel bad for Lewis. Anyway, and Ben, of course. Yeah, sorry. Just before, how does Ben get over this? You're expecting us to believe that he's so uncomfortable with his own sexuality that he doesn't like sort of being out and proud and holding his boyfriend's hands, and now he's going to get raped by a guy. How does someone get over that after going through what Ben's already been through? It just feels like too much for one person. But yeah, there you go. Sorry.
I agree. And also, who's going to look after him? Because this is a good opportunity. If they are doing this, then surely the most logical person to help him would be Kathy, because Kathy, as we said in one of the emails, it's happened to her twice, and it's going to happen at
in that bar.
Prince Albert, because it's the exact same building where the Dagmar was, where Kathy was raped. So as I said in the tweet when it was released, it was like, and we all go, the parallels, and we'll all be like, bah, bah, bah. But anyway, that's enough of us. What do you guys think? Comment below if you're watching us on YouTube, or get in touch with us with the details that Rob will tell you right now.
You can contact us on Twitter and Instagram at Walford Weekly. You can find us on Facebook at Walford Weekly Podcast. On YouTube, don't forget to like, subscribe and click the bell to get notifications about our spoiler videos. And you can listen to us on Apple, Podbean, Spotify or any of your favourite podcast sites. email us at robwalfordweekly@gmail.com or alexwalfordweekly@gmail.com, because he started reading his emails at last, haven't you, Alex? Fantastic. Only took you a few.
Thank you so much.
You literally months. Yeah, see how prepared he is when he reads his emails. I've tried, all right? There we are then. So, thank you very much, Alex. I'm sorry for all my own personal technical problems that have plagued us throughout this recording, but hopefully it should come out and you won't notice a thing. The editing will be seamless. He's a seamstress, this one.
Well, they'll know now because you've said something, Rob. You've said something.
We said at the start. We said at the start that there was technical issues.
I know. But they don't know. They don't know what we've been through this night. This long evening.
You don't know. We started yesterday.
Oh,
it's
something
been going
nice.
on for 24 hours. This recording.
We did.
We did.
I was 24 when I started recording this.
Yeah. Aged us horribly. Right. Anyway, so. Join us next week when we will be discussing the ins and outs of another week in Albert Square. Until then, it's goodbye from him.
And it's goodbye from him. Goodbye.
Goodbye. See you next week. Bye.